So let's call a meeting to order. I've got 6:02 as our meeting time. Hey, Garrett, how are you?
Good. A little under the weather, but I'm okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So,
Dude, that was a ginormous tree that came down across the street from your house.
yeah.
I saw,
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw the CMP guys there, like, there must have been like 3 or 4 trucks. They were all like sort of scratching their head, trying to figure out how they were gonna get that tree off the wires, because it was like
Oh,
100, it was like a 150-year-old oak tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you probably took care of it.
55 calls is fast.
Yeah. Okay, so, first on our, list is to review and consider approving the minutes from August and September. Which we could do with one fell swoop if we wish. Any feedback?
No, I just reviewed them. I don't know, Garrett, copy of them or
I
not.
had sent the link in the email to Garrett, so he should be able to access them on.
It's saying access is denied.
Ah,
All right, let's see if we can get you a copy, Garrett, so you can make an informed decision.
yeah.
Yeah.
Access is.
That last meeting was with the developer, right? Am I right?
No,
No.
we had, a meeting in between.
Two prior, yes, we've had a meeting with the developer was our last.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You are correct. I'm reading them in reverse order here. So, one set of minutes is from August 22nd, and that is for our, what was preliminarily our, conversation about the TIF proposed growth area and the Monmouth Museum application. And then you're correct. Our next meeting was on September 19. And that was regarding the potential property sale on Main Street and Kevin Rose from Wish Rock Development.
Garrett, can you try that link again? I think I changed the access.
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, so you should be able to see the minutes in our packet from August 22nd. And then from September 19.
Yep. Thank you.
And so Dan has made a motion
Sorry
to
accept both minutes.
accept both minutes. And if I hear a second from you, we can put it up for a discussion, if there is any, and then a vote.
Second. Yep.
Right, so I have a motion by Dan and a second by Garrett to accept the minutes. Any amendments, any changes that you want to see? All right, then all those in favor? All right, and that's unanimous. Okay, next on our agenda, follow up on the Wish Rock presentation. So, yeah, so where are we with
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
So, Kevin, I followed up with Kevin after the meeting when he came here, and he was going to get updated, information on pricing. And when he got back to me, he said that the pricing for that property was $1 million more than what he originally thought it was going to be. So he was, not feeling like that was going to work for him. I mean, the TIF was going to be almost covering the gap that he had anticipated.
Right.
But then there was another $1 million that somehow.
How did that happen?
I did not ask him, but that's what he said were.
So it went
was the-
from 300 and change to 1,300,000 and change?
Yeah, 1.3, yep, a gap. So that wasn't gonna work for him.
Oh,
for that growth.
maybe there's someone else who's interested and
Right.
wants to pay more. Okay.
But what he did say, he did follow up again and says he's not giving up on Monmouth yet.
Okay.
However, he's looking at other properties, including the last one he sent me was 174 Academy, which he says, is not on the market, but was for a long time, and it doesn't look like it has been sold, so he just doesn't know if the buyer just kind of took it off the market. But that's obviously on this road here.
Yep.
And he thought that that might be more conducive to the type of, he understood the apprehension of having like a big apartment building on Main Street.
Right.
And so would this be a more appropriate location for something that he's looking to develop?
Yeah, tell me, where's 174?
Just past the school on the right.
Okay, so that had been previously
It
approved
was-
for sort of,
For development, I
for
think.
development of some tiny homes
Yeah.
Yeah,
or retirement.
if that's the property,
I,
I'm pretty
I
sure.
believe it is. That's what I was.
Which
Okay.
I think just outside the water and sewer district. I don't know if it goes that far. Is Cottrell School on that?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
gotta
that must be the tail end then.
So it
it's a-
would go
so-
by-
So it's a.
It would
different-
still be, it would still plug in, I'm pretty sure. It would plug in.
Right.
So, I would think that particular location would address a lot of the sort of appearance concerns
Yeah.
about a ginormous building. And it would also, I would think it might also,
But it's right next to schools too.
yeah,
Is that be frowned on by townspeople for?
maybe not, but it would. It's near some traffic things, so there would be some. There would be less, there would be things you could walk to. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a vehicle to go everywhere. You could walk your kids to school. The kids could walk to school.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
that reason.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah.
He was indicating that Maine Housing has issued a new program that appears to have more resources and also would allow for an elderly designation. For housing as well. So, again, I think the advantage of having it near a school. Is that you don't have immediate neighbors that don't want to be looking at, and it kind of fits in with a more. Commercial type
Sure, a more
area.
densely,
Right, so, it's instead of house, apartment building. House. So, but, I have not heard from him since then, so,
okay,
but, he's still interested in the area, we'll
Good.
still continue to talk to him, and, it would be great to bring some, affordable housing to Monmouth, as I always say, as much as anything, sometimes people would like to get out of their homes, but don't want to leave their community. So to the extent that people would also be able to kind of then open up houses in town or in the area is also a positive. So, but yes, so nothing immediate right now. There's no diff request from Mr. Rose at this point.
okay. I don't know, I mean,
Just overall, how did we feel about the presentation? I guess as a committee.
I was lukewarm.
Yeah.
Partly because there was a substantial impact to the neighborhood and to the town because that's sort of entrance to the town. And so I was kind of feeling like, okay, maybe that's not the right fit for that particular location. I totally get it that we need to have some affordable housing options, particularly for seniors who want to stay in Monmouth,
I agree with that.
stay close to neighbors.
I guarantee that that's the clientele that would come.
No, there isn't. Although, it struck me that the program that he was interested in initially was definitely market incentivized to find neighbors that are gonna be a good fit for the community, and maybe even neighbors that are already in the community that just want to downsize.
Yeah.
And not just, I mean, you know, the reality of it in Monmouth right now is, there is no affordable housing. And people are having to leave town in order to find it. And that's not healthy. I was still kind of, if he's gonna impact the neighborhood with a ginormous apartment building, I was a little bit concerned that, you know, and then on top of it, ask us for a tax incentive to boot. I was a little bit concerned, like, I don't know if I would go for that. But if it's in a location now where it's a little more off the beaten path, maybe it's a little better fit. Because it's already sort of a densely used neighborhood, because it's got schools. And maybe that would be a better fit. You know, I'd be intrigued if he's specifically saying my program is about, you know, elderly housing, if that's what he's going for. That would get me a lot more enthusiastic. But I'd be willing to consider that, and that would shift my opinion if it's off the beaten path.
And I think, you know, again, talking about affordable housing in Augusta versus, which is a service center, versus Monmouth. I think people are hard pressed to, I guess I'll say, I would envision that it would attract people who are already here, as opposed to people who are living in Augusta or crashing in Augusta and saying, oh, there's affordable housing in Monmouth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 18 miles this way. I may not have a vehicle. I'm away from all of my services and
Mhm. You can't walk.
employment. Yeah. And so it's just a different, this program is specific for rural affordable housing. And my feeling is it's to cater to those communities that, just like Kent said, don't have any. And to that end, people are having to leave.
Yeah, live farther away
Yeah.
from family and the community that they belong to. Yeah, just to do what, you know, to downsize. You know, they're in the retirement. I mean, you know, the other big challenge that we've got in Monmouth is we're super reliant on property taxes for residential buildings. And so, and because we don't have a whole lot of other type of tax base. It's pretty much houses.
So is this gentleman gonna have the same $1 million problem at this new location?
That's for him to figure out.
And if so, I say we move on.
Okay,
Yeah, and sorry, my feeling was if Wish Rock was behind it, I'd feel better about it, but he was kind of trying to do his own thing. And I was like, oh, okay, like it doesn't seem like I'm fully, like he didn't seem to be fully prepared to be, you know. Yeah, that's just my feedback, but
I think,
Yeah.
I think he's looking on a return on his investment, you know, and he's just not there, you know, financially. We can only bend over so much with the TIF funds.
true.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, next up, review property proposed to be removed from Monmouth Main Street Omnibus TIF District.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of background on this, Megan.
Sure. So, the TIF district was approved by the voters in June. And when I submitted the application, I realized that for some reason, Amendment 1, the property was added to the TIF district by your attorney and it was approved by the state, but it was, the acreage is above the 2% limit. So it says, so there's 2.06% of the town in this TIF district, which is not allowed by statute.
And this is back in 2014, 2015, something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
But DECD approved it. So I was intrigued. I've never seen that happen before. And legitimately, I mean, it's very clearly stated in the application, so I was just okay, like, this is something new and different. So when we put in our amendment in, we have a new TIF administrator who did not approve that amendment 1, and she flagged that as an issue. She also recognizes that it was approved by DECD in the past, and so she wants it corrected. However, she is not going to make us go through what you would typically need to do for an amendment for a TIF district, which would be another public hearing, another vote to remove a piece of property so that it is within the statutory limits. So she's kind of letting us do this on the side, recognizing that, again, it's been approved in the past, but she wants it corrected. So she's approved the TIF district, but for,
Additional.
yes, conditional approval.
Gotcha.
So when I talked to Donna about this, it's the property that I think I talked to Kent about potentially. Sorry, Garrett, I'm just not quite up to speed yet, but so I didn't put this in the packet, but the property that everyone feels makes the most sense would be property that is under the CMP power lines, that is included in the district acreage, that is highly unlikely to see any property value grow. And so the piece of property that Donna flagged is near the property line of Litchfield and is pretty much at the end of our portion of the CMP corridor. So kind of this piece here.
Just down by the golf course down there,
Yes.
right near the town line. Already not developed. No way that very unlikely that someone would develop it underneath power lines.
Right.
So
So that's what we're
proposing, how many acres is that?
it's 11, I believe.
And that would bring us back underneath the
That would bring us
2%.
back under the 2%, under it's 392 acres or something to that effect.
Okay,
So if this committee approves that, what I would like to do, I now have to go back and rewrite the assessor's certificate, which is part of the application, and have Donna sign that, and then have the select board approve the removal of this particular property, and then I can send it to DECD. But I wanted to get this committee's okay on that before I went through the process of rewriting the assessors. I'm gonna have to redo the map also, the maps of the district. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for this one property that, again, was already approved by the
So
EPD.
is the CMP corridor part of the TIF district?
it is now.
It is,
And we're
Yeah.
just taking a piece of it so that we can get under the 2%.
right. And what Donna said is the value of the CMP corridor is in the, what is it, the transmission, the
Substation.
substation,
Yeah.
thank you. And so again, this doesn't have a lot of value associated with it, and it's not going to grow.
Initially, it was thrown in there because they were thinking, back when the TIF was created, they were thinking they'd be able to charge for the lines. It turns out they can't charge for the lines because the lines are are considered part of the network of transmission lines. And so they get socialized. That was the big term that Kurt used to love to throw around. They get socialized into the rest of the transmission network. So we can't actually count those lines. So there's no purpose really for them. I mean, I think maybe CMP is paying $1,000 a year in taxes on this parcel. It's not much.
No, it's
Yeah,
not much.
yeah.
So it's not a big loss for the TIF district.
Right.
And again, will get us under 2% so that DECD will feel that we are in compliance with our TIF district. So
You need a motion for that?
We do. Garrett, have you got any questions? What are your thoughts?
Makes sense to me.
Okay,
I'll make the motion that we remove the 11 acres under the CMP corridor that's been outlined on that map so that we can fall under the 2%.
Second.
Compliance.
all right. So we have a motion from Dan and a second from Garrett to remove the CMP designated parcel, 11-acre parcel from the Main Street Omnibus TIF. Any further conversation? Discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. The motion passes.
excellent.
Okay, next up on our agenda is a request to the state for the extension of the deadline for the 202 TIF district.
Yes, and there's just a copy of the letter that I'm going to request that Doug on behalf of the select board sign, but basically this is a request to extend the deadline, which is March 1st, for TIF districts that would allow us to capture the original assessed value of the cabin master's property before they purchased it. We would need to do that before March. We would need that application to go in before March 1st, 2024. I'm asking that we be able to extend that till March 29th or the end of the month so that the town does not have to hold a special election for that this TIF district. We can instead have it during the presidential primary election on March 5th. And that way the town only has to run one election. And these usually go through without issue, but we do need to request it in advance. And so that's why I wanted to have this meeting, because if for some reason it didn't go through, we would need to then put together a town vote to approve this before the end of February.
Mhm.
Again, I don't anticipate that happening at all, but it would be important to know one way or the other. And just to remind, I mean, we have, the application is all but done with the 202 TIF. And so then we would need to have a public hearing and then the vote on March 5th for that.
Gotcha. Questions? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Sure. So we need to, I'll make a motion that we approve to have this letter sent to the state.
Just make a recommendation to the select board?
Yeah.
We make a recommendation to the select board
To send them.
to send a letter.
Sure. But he said,
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend to the select board that we send this letter asking for a deadline so that we can save the town the expense of a special election in order to approve this new TIF district on Route 2. All those in favor? Unanimous, motion passes. Okay, next up is the cannabis survey hard copy results.
Cannabis survey. So on the page after the drafted letter to Commissioner Johnson is the responses from the November cannabis survey.
Okay,
There were 29 paper responses,
okay,
and I set it up in the same format as when we had done the responses in June.
okay,
And I also put the June survey results in this packet as well, just so you can compare. But there were 46 responses in June, 29 in November.
Yep.
And this crew seemed to be in favor of not having any new cannabis activity in town
There you go.
to the tune of 62% of respondents.
There you
So
go.
18 out of 29 said that they did not want anything new. So that's a resounding
I'd say that's a
response.
resounding, and I would also say that it's as accurate can be.
Right. Well, you know, but what is interesting is that in June, none had the lowest response for the paper versions. So I don't know who came out in November versus June, but it was just interesting that it was a complete opposite from what we saw, because of course, I think we felt that the online results had skewed towards no.
Mhm.
And this time we didn't have online results, so that was the differentiating factor here, so.
Well, if the chair can make a motion, I make a motion that we call the horse dead.
That's certainly fine, reviewed by committee. I did have, Justin forwarded me a call from a gentleman who was asking about setting up retail marijuana in Monmouth, because clearly he drove through and there weren't any, so he thought it was some sort of a market, to penetrate. And I let him know that the committee was reviewing these results, and I would let him know. So that was.
Well, you can let him know, he may have to go to Manchester.
Not this year. Not this year. So. Clear.
Okay.
To clarify though, was there some question that was coming before the select board?
Yeah, there's a medicinal
Yeah.
operation in town. And they were asking for us to approve them to become something more than just a caregiver. They were, what was it? They wanted to be a dispensary. And a dispensary actually requires town approval, whereas being just a plain old caregiver is regulated by the state and the town has no authority, no jurisdiction. And so that was kind of the trigger, was that these folks wanted to know if it would be possible for the town to reconsider its ordinance. And, based on the results of our various surveys, I think the answer is not today.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay.
I don't have other business, but
Other business.
if anyone else does, then this would be the time to raise that.
Here it's got nothing. All right.
Well, do we have any goals for 2024 other than we've already discussed? Anything new that our committee needs to tackle or consider, or?
Sorry, one thing I just noticed is Andy is not on the email, so that
But
might be.
he might not have known about tonight's meeting.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I just saw that it doesn't look like it, so.
Thank you for pointing that out,
Thank
Garrett.
you, Garrett.
Yeah, sure.
I think we should stay focused on finishing the TIF district for 202, which would be a big
thing.
chunk.
Yep.
I also think that we might want to consider what opportunities we have with regard to the using TIF funds for trail systems. Like how we might be able to entice property owners. Maybe we have a meeting and maybe we invite the Conservation Commission as well to that meeting, because they would probably be, that and the Snowmobile Club, they would probably be big time champions of such an endeavor. But maybe we could think about as a goal for 2024 to be considering what the opportunities are there and how we can leverage the TIF funds. I mean, at this point, we've been allowing TIF funding to accumulate in a number of different accounts, primarily in anticipation of the sidewalk project that we know is on the radar for the next year or two in downtown. That doesn't mean that 100% of those funds need to go to that project. It just means we've been banking it, knowing that we've got a big expense coming. And the scale of what we have been thinking about for funding of trail systems, I mean, maybe that's $20,000 a year. Maybe it's 30, I don't know, but it was somewhere in that sort of ballpark. That would not be a huge impact to, a multi-million-dollar project that I think they're anticipating for sidewalks in the downtown area. Now, not to say that the town is necessarily going to shoulder all of that, and not to say that the town would necessarily have to
Can you remind me, is
pay it in cash.
the sidewalk project, and I know it's tying in with the road and you
Yep.
got the infrastructure under the road, but
Yep.
Does the sidewalk also include like lights and, shrubbery
It
and
could,
beautifying the downtown?
it could,
I think it does include, they call it streetscape. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
it could, and some of that
Should.
would depend on what the select board would approve using the TIF funds for. And then also, if the voters wanted to finance what the balance of that would be. I was just looking at our capital plan from the select board. At our last meeting, we were looking at long-term capital planning. And, we're in a very reasonable position as a town for how much debt we have. And in fact, the debt that we do have is most of it's amortized over 10 years. So we're paying, principal payments each year in the six figures, paying that off pretty rapidly. So, every time we meet with our auditor, we're always asking them, hey, look, are we overextended, underextended? Where are we when it comes to how other municipalities have arranged their finances long term? And the indication we get is we're extremely reasonable. So, interest rates right now are not super favorable, but that might change. And if it does, we could definitely consider taking on some additional long-term debt rather than paying it right out of pocket with TIF funding. So we don't necessarily have to feel like 100% of the surplus that's sitting in the TIF account has to be dedicated to that particular project. Other 2024 priorities.
I think I just need to get a handle on how best we can deploy it in the community, like personally. Now that we've redrawn and figured out what the TIF district is, how to let people know. I think that's kind of the major
Hmm,
thing now.
mhm.
My second question is, so where is the TIF money? Are we allowed to invest it in something secure? Is it earning interest in what I'm saying?
Nope.
We are not allowed to earn interest?
We earn, checking account
Right,
interest
yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
okay.
Project, yeah, project cost account, project account.
Yeah, so that the Bangor savings that we're in with.
I don't
in
know,
Monmouth.
honestly, yeah.
Yeah, they're paying us peanuts. For the money that's sitting in our account. So no, it does not get invested, and that's actually been a little bit of a concern of mine, is like, if we're sitting on a huge surplus.
Yeah.
Either we should be, um, you know, uh. I mean, with inflation somewhere between 3% and 5% or wherever it is today, it's coming down from where it was last year. We should be earning more than just checking account interest. And it's actually losing value if it's just sitting there. And we're trying to, save up. It's, I mean, it's kind of dumb to do it that way, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And, so when it comes to the long-term, financial affairs, we've got some work to do. Other 2024 ideas?
I'd just like to, try to attract at least one business in 2024 to come to Monmouth, so we can say, hey, we solicited. We brought somebody in.
So, that's definitely true. I think we also need to do, as a town, a really good job of helping our existing businesses just continue to grow. And some of that is just, staying steady at the wheel. Just being predictable and, asking ourselves right questions when we can. Keeping the tax rate at a, reasonable, competitive place. And demonstrating to the folks who live here that we're gonna make constant improvement to, the infrastructure in the town. I think, one of the opportunities that, and I don't know if this is necessarily an economic development thing, but one of the opportunities that I think we've got in front of us is to do a better job of managing infrastructure. If you look at the history of the last 5 years, we're constantly in reactive mode.
Mhm.
Right, wait for something to break. Oh my God, let's throw some money at it, get it fixed. And that's the way we've been dealing with long-term obligations, is like, oh, that dam broke. Okay, we gotta pay for it. Oh, that bridge is out. Okay, Jesus, we gotta pay. Oh, this one's starting to show its age. I don't know if you guys have been down the Logan Road.
What wagon
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous. And you can't, I don't even think we're ready to start talking about some of the dirt roads that we've got in town that haven't been paved. That should have been paved, in the 90s.
No, but aside from that, I just think of like, when was the last time we built the town of Monmouth, and I say town of Monmouth, when did somebody build a commercial building in our town? To bring a new business in?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, there's your building that was put up 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, getting cabin masters out on 202.
That's a great thing for our town. I agree.
Totally
But it's
agree.
an existing building that's been, changing hands.
Yeah,
I'm saying
something brand new.
something new coming to Monmouth. I feel like we're missing the boat. Like, the town is not open, in open arms And is there a stumbling block? Is there something within town government or planning board or code enforcement, or, you know, is there something that we're missing the boat on? And is somebody looking at that and, you know, a town official
Yeah.
or, you know, town manager or,
Maybe we should think about a SWOT analysis for the town of Monmouth.
I mean, I look at other communities, and they're just prospering left and right. Maybe not so much, you know, in the smaller towns in our general area, but you know, like, yeah, they're bigger municipalities probably, but it seems like we have property that somebody could build on, but they don't. Why?
Well, you know, Dan, some of that I think is marketing too, and how involved the town wants to get in marketing their vacant properties or, you know, their
Sure.
existing properties. As, you know, we're just talking about marketing the TIF district. So what of these properties are in TIF districts and what advantage would that be for someone who wants to?
I look at the
Build a
corner
building.
lot on 202 and Main Street, across from the church. I mean, that's a, you know, premier commercial property at a relatively inexpensive amount, $125,000 for a commercial lot. Why hasn't somebody built on that? I can't answer that question.
Well, we did, I think,
Several years it's been vacant,
yeah,
or for sale,
well, you know, there was an initiative for a Dunkin' Donuts there.
which the Dunkin' Donuts down the street, you know, put the squash to that because it was too close. Well, I'm sorry, yeah, but when I see several other Dunkin' Donuts go up in the same city, it just, I don't buy that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's entrepreneur or it's just something that we just need to make aware that there's something that's available here to the town, because there is money available.
Is the old Bangor Savings Bank, primo property right across from Compton Hall, make a nice little coffee shop or nice little, you know, restaurant, or
What's the asking price on
probably too much, I don't know.
that? Is it for sale or just
No,
a lease
I
agreement?
was gonna say, they're not trying to sell it. They just want to rent it. And,
I almost feel like we should sit down as a committee and present to the town, hey, we've done our research. Okay, on all these main streets and, you know, main routes,
Okay.
here's properties for sale, here's ones for rent. And just have a blueprint that you can put on the town website and say, hey, you know, here's some places for sale, you know,
contact realtors.
contact, yeah.
Send them to, yep.
Just,
All the things, yes.
I think one,
just a little advertisement.
Yeah, and
so one thing we need to do before we do that is sort of get, you know, an idea of what we're up against. Like, where does Monmouth stand in terms of its competitive attributes to the other choices, the other alternatives, right? The other small towns that border us. Is it easier to build in Leeds? Maybe it is. Is the tax rate in Litchfield more or less than it is in Monmouth? For the same valuation? Couldn't tell you.
It's probably less than both of those two towns. But I don't see a lot of commercial businesses going up in their towns either.
Well, and so, but you know what? We're all in the same boat in terms of looking to be attractive to bring commercial activity here. So they're definitely our competitor.
I know Gals was interested in Joey Sears' father's old property on 126.
Yeah,
Either an urban gas station or maybe
some housing
type
thing.
of something.
Yeah,
I don't know, if that's gone by the wayside, but you know, that would be an example of, you know, a nice commercial lot. South Monmouth could use a little boost.
sure. Lots of traffic on 126. So I think that's a very reasonable goal for us to do some sort of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis for Monmouth. And sort of identify, you know, we shouldn't be asking for just anyone. We should be asking for the best fit for Monmouth, right? And in order to understand that, we got to understand how do we fit into someone else's choices. Like when someone says, "Oh, I need a central main location to build my business," what would make Monmouth the right place for them to choose. Because it's not gonna be everybody. But there are some businesses, business size or business types that would be a really good fit for Monmouth, because we've got 202 and 126. Because we've got proximity to the lakes. Because we've got an awesome school district. Better than most. In terms of test scores and reputation. And we've got, I mean, one of the differences between Litchfield, Leeds, Green, and Monmouth is we've got a police force. We've got pretty decent control over law and order, crime, that kind of thing.
Right. Hell of a fire department too.
We got an amazing fire department. Who's gonna get us rock bottom insurance rates when they finish their ISO evaluation?
Well, I mean, the SWAT is certainly, I mean, we could do that formally at our January meeting. You know, we could take, you know, half the meeting to go through a quick SWAT. I could gather more information that kind of comes from those different categories and information the committee would want to know, which would definitely better inform. I mean, some of these sound like great goals. One of my goals, which has been put by the wayside because of the issue with KB cog, but again, that revolving loan program. And again, businesses, a lot of times businesses that set up in towns are from people who live here and know people here.
Yep.
And, you know, so a revolving loan, you know, someone who wanted to open a coffee shop in that location would probably be someone who is a community member type of thing. And
Yep.
so what assistance can the town provide and have in place for opportunities like that? So those would be, but the problem has been that KB cog is supposedly our administrator, and honestly, I haven't checked in with Justin about the status of that organization now that they have a new CEO or executive director, whomever, as they were fairly unstable. And I certainly couldn't get a call back from anyone there, which is frustrating. So I think, you know, I think that would be a definitely a worthwhile exercise for January at the beginning of the year and better inform the rest of the 2024.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
So moved. There's